took off for the carriers waiting in the South China Sea.
There was no room, so the Navy men ordered the pilots to ditch the helicopters in the ocean.
We were living in a period of what the Greeks call hubris, overweening pride. This was this eighth-rate military power. How were they going to defeat us?
Once it became a reality, and seeing the pictures on television of not only a retreat, but a disorderly retreat, and that ache within ourselves again is saying, this is not who we thought we were.
To see what was in store for the South Vietnamese people, to see the visions of the helicopters and people struggling to get out and the terrible triage and choices that had to be made, was clearly one of the lows in my life.
It's a turbulent time. I want to bring in Charlie Plumb. He's a former Navy fighter pilot. He flew 74 combat missions over Vietnam. On his 75th mission, on May 19th, 1967, he was shot down, captured, and imprisoned as a POW for 6 years. Thank you, sir, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Carol. Nice to be with you.
Nice to be with you. When you see those pictures from our documentary, what goes through your mind?
A bit of sadness, to tell you the truth, that we had to get out of there with our tail between our legs. And we didn't accomplish the mission that we set out to.
And I can still see the pain in your eyes today when you say that.
Well, there's a lot of ways to look at that war, obviously, and there's good news and bad news, but with any war, it's hell. And there's, I hate war probably more than anyone, but I also see a reason for it.
And you certainly went through hell. You spent more than 2,000 days in an 8-by-8-foot cell. What kept you going?
Carol, in a word, I suppose it was faith. I'm a religious man, faith in my God, faith in my fellow POWs, faith in the leadership of this country, faith in myself.
When you came home, how was your reception?
You know, it was really good. It was much better than the soldiers that came back during the war. It was sort of a closure, you know, a final chapter in this very difficult, painful war. And so we were met with parades and gifts, and so it was a great transition, obviously, in my life. But it was a thing of beauty as well.
What do you think we learned from Vietnam, if anything?
I'm not sure we learned much, because we're repeating some of the same challenges that we faced there. It's difficult, I think, for a nation as grandiose as ours to go into a small country and try to impose our value system, our way of life, upon them. The poor people of Vietnam, all they wanted was a couple of bowls of rice a day and to be left alone, and we wanted to make entrepreneurs out of them and set up their leadership, and it's just not the right thing to do.
Do you see parallels in what the United States is currently doing in Iraq?
Absolutely. We march in there, the most powerful nation in the world, and try to impose our system on them without really dealing with who they are and what they want and where they want to go with their lives.
Why do you think our leaders haven't learned that lesson when Vietnam was so very painful for America?
Well, I have a bit of a negative approach to leadership all over the world, and part of it is to sort of churn the pot. I think our leadership wants us to be in peril so that they can rush in and save the world. And so I think it's really, they feel it's to their advantage, actually, to start little wars like this.
Charlie Plumb, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your insight. I sure appreciate it. And remember, you can watch the CNN original series, The 70s, tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern.